also got to see The Brutalist, which has become one of the most talked about movies of the entire year. It's been the hardest movie to get a ticket for at all of these film festivals. And even before it premiered at Venice, I had this on my short list of the top 10 movies I knew I had to see at TIFF, just because it's a over 3-hour epic. Those movies tend to be in the Oscar conversation, at least most of those years. So I thought The Brutalist could be on that list of like, oh, this is like the 10th movie that gets nominated for Best Picture. But man, has it exploded in terms of hype and anticipation and just becoming one of the biggest Oscar contenders already this year. At the time of recording this video, it seems like Anora and The Brutalist are kind of the two Best Picture frontrunners at the moment. And with that, I have a lot of thoughts about The Brutalist. And I'm going to get into all my thoughts about the movie. But before I do that, I just want to rant about a couple things with you for a few minutes. Because if there's one thing you should take from this huge, long TIFF recap that I made, I think that reviewing movies on YouTube in this kind of format, or just any format in general, it doesn't even just have to be YouTube, but when you're reviewing a movie you've only seen once, you're not really reviewing a movie. For the most part, you're usually just giving your first impressions of a movie. Like, there's certain ones you see them and you're like, yeah, this is really shit. And there's other ones you see, you're like, oh yeah, that's definitely great. But to get into like all the nitty gritty details of everything, of how you feel about a certain movie, I feel like you need to watch them at least twice. So if you want to grow on YouTube, I think you have to get your thoughts out as soon as possible. It's just part of the game. You can't wait forever, like I did with this TIFF recap video, of getting your stuff out, because you don't really grow as a channel. You need to be on it. You need to have your opinions ready to go. And the most talented people out there can have a definitive opinion the second they walk out of a theater. And if I had the power to give videos the same amount of views 2 months after a movie comes out versus the weekend it comes out, then yeah, I would take my time and watch a movie 3 times before I talked about it on YouTube. But that's just not realistic. We also are human beings. We don't have time to watch every movie we see 3 times. But regardless of if I liked a movie or not, I still want to tell you guys what I thought about a movie. You know, when I walk out, is it something you should go out and see absolutely immediately? Is it something you should save your money on and wait till it comes on streaming? Is it something like Hold Your Breath, which you should just skip entirely, whether you have the streaming service or not? And I also think if you are one of these people that goes to these film festivals and you're one of the first people in the world to see this movie and you're in charge of recommending movies to your large audience, I do think a lot of people are ready to make bold claims as soon as they walk out of a theater. Because if you are one of the first people to see The Brutalist, The Wild Robot, Anora, Saturday Night, all these movies that had a lot of hype coming out of film festivals, you also want to be one of those first people that gets the word out about that movie, whether it's hype or not hype, or you're saying it's not good or it's the best movie of the year, whatever it is. I understand why people want to get that word out before everybody else. And whether somebody actually believes that opinion or not that they put out is up to interpretation. I do think pretty much every critic out there is authentic with their reaction to movies. But this was my first film festival that I got to attend as press. So when you're in those press lines, you get to talk to people that are also in the press. And when you're waiting in line for an hour for a movie, you naturally start talking to people next to you in line, and you ask like, oh, what are some of your favorite movies of the festival? Like, what are you most looking forward to? Those basic conversations, because we're all there for the same thing. We all love movies. We all want to learn about the movies that we should all be seeing at that festival. And I got to attend the last screening of The Brutalist, because there were only 3 total screenings that entire like 10 days of the festival, which is absolutely crazy. There was 1 press screening that was first, and then there were 2 public screenings. I got to attend that second public screening, so everyone at TIFF that saw The Brutalist pretty much saw it before me, which means I got to talk to a lot of people that saw it at that very first press screening. So anytime I ran into one of those people, I would be like, oh, what did you think of The Brutalist? Because it was the most hyped up movie coming out of Venice and kind of going into this film festival. And I could count on my hand probably 4 or 5 people that when I asked that, they said, yeah, it was pretty good. Or it'd be something like, yeah, I really liked it. Or something like, you know what? I liked it, but I definitely have to see it a second time. Stuff like that in that realm of conversation, which is a super valid reaction to watching a movie. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about The Brutalist before we get into all of my thoughts. But when you have conversations with those people, and then you check Letterboxd or Twitter or whatever, and you see that person give it a 5 out of 5 or a 9 out of 10, you start to lose your mind a little bit. It makes you go like, what the fuck were you talking about when we were talking about the movie? I thought you said you kind of liked it. I get shit on by a lot of people about my Letterboxd ratings. It's what it is. I don't really take it that seriously. I have The Cat in the Hat as a 4 out of 5 and The Brutalist a 3 out of 5 at the moment. I don't take it that seriously. It's just how I feel about movies in the moment. And during those conversations at Toronto and then seeing scores of the movie after, it did kind of confirm a little bit of speculation I've always had about certain critics. And that is that you could put a lot of critics or content creators into pretty much one of two spaces. You have the person that no matter what the movie is, their opinion is 99% out of 100 times going to be the same as the general public. Like if the movie has a 3.5 on Letterboxd, insert name of critic is going to have a 3.5 on Letterboxd. Then you have the other side, which is always going to go against the general opinion of movies so they can get their writing or video shared a lot more on social media. Again, I've heard of people that kind of shit on movies like Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't care if you like Deadpool or Wolverine or not. I thought it was fine. But to write an article on why it's ruining cinema and how Marvel has just ruined movies and this is the worst thing of the entire year, even though I know people that were at that screening with that person and they said that person was cracking up at all of the jokes, it makes me question who you should follow. And that's all I'm saying. I do feel like a lot of people kind of group me into that second group of people. And if that's how you feel about me, I'm sorry. Maybe this isn't the channel for you. But I never enjoy when I don't like something as much as everybody else does. I think a lot of people think I enjoy ranting about certain movies. And sometimes it is fun. Like if I genuinely think a movie's terrible, like I like to rant about that. I also like to rant about the movies I absolutely love. And I'm also somebody that thinks a lot of movies that a lot of people think are great are just fine. But there's a lot of times I have been on the record of saying I was wrong about movies. Like there are a ton of modern movies that people loved when they came out and I said, yeah, they're pretty good. Movies like Call Me By Your Name, La La Land, The Fabelmans, Oppenheimer. I really liked them when I saw them the first time, but I wasn't blown away by them. But after I rewatched each of those, I loved them. They are some of my favorite movies of the past 10 years. Call Me By Your Name is one of my favorite movies of all time. But I would also not go back and be like, oh yeah, I always loved Call Me By Your Name. My first Letterboxd review remains the same. You know, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was overhyped at the time. But then you go through some different life things or you just see movies through a different lens and you're like, holy shit, that's one of the best movies I've ever seen. So when I tell you right now that I thought The Brutalist was a good movie, believe me when I tell you, I thought The Brutalist was a pretty good movie. It has been the one film from TIFF that I've given a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and I keep debating, it might be a 3.5. It's like right on the cusp. I am somebody, when I feel that way about a movie, I tend to round down a bit. And the reason I want to bump it to a 3.5 out of 5 is that everything on a technical level is what I want modern movies to kind of be. And there is clearly so much thought being put behind every single choice of this movie. I mean, this is directed by Brady Corbet. And the only other thing I have seen from him is Vox Lux. I know he's been an actor before, but in terms of directing, that was the only thing I've seen. I watched it on the plane to Toronto, which is, by the way, one of the worst movies you could watch on a plane. I thought it was really about Natalie Portman just being a cringy pop star. I was so wrong within the first 5 minutes. I had old people looking at my iPad like, what the fuck is this kid watching? But even if it's not the best airplane movie, I thought Vox Lux was absolutely great. So when you combine my Vox Lux love with the hype from Venice, with this is a 3-hour epic, I'm sold. Like, this became my most anticipated film of the festival besides Megalopolis, and Megalopolis ended up being a lot worse than I thought it would be. So I did put a lot of hope into The Brutalist kind of being the savior of Toronto. There's just been so much talk about how this is one of the best movies ever made, and I really try my best to avoid hype for movies. Like, I don't watch trailers. That's a big thing for me. If trailers are playing during a theater, I tend to be on my phone until the trailers turn off. I try to avoid conversations on film Twitter about how good a movie is before it comes out, but I'm a movie fan. Like, I naturally want to be in those conversations. I naturally want to get excited for movies. It's just in my DNA. And especially for a movie like this, when everybody walks out of it comparing it to the scale of The Godfather and There Will Be Blood. Like, people are saying this is the next Godfather. This is the next There Will Be Blood. Those are bold fucking words, and everybody was saying them. And I do understand where people are coming from, because the epicness of this immigrant story you can compare kind of to There Will Be Blood, and the look and feel of this movie does feel like something that was made in the 70s in the same year as The Godfather. I understand those comparisons. But just because a movie looks and feels like it is one of the most important in cinema history recently, that doesn't mean we should automatically group it with two of inarguable classics when it comes to best movies ever made. When you're behind two guys in line talking and one guy goes, "Oh, did you see The Brutalist?" And the other guy goes, "Oh my God, man, There Will Be Blood is my favorite movie. You see my phone background? It's Daniel Plainview. It's the best movie I've ever seen, and The Brutalist is the second best movie I've ever seen." This, I swear to God, this is how people were talking. I think this was in line for Piece by Piece. I heard two guys talking about it. Like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was like, okay, this movie has to be that good. And I don't know, maybe some people have a lot of influence and people start repeating each other over and over again at film festivals. I've never heard There Will Be Blood more in the past 15 years or whatever it's been since it came out, other than comparing it to The Brutalist. But I think placing The Brutalist next to The Godfather and There Will Be Blood does absolutely no favors to anybody who, like me at the time, hasn't seen The Brutalist yet. There's a lot of people waiting to see this movie, expecting the next There Will Be Blood, expecting the next Godfather. And I think that's setting up a lot of people for disappointment, because when I think of The Godfather and when I think of There Will Be Blood, those two movies give me a very specific feeling of what I should expect. And I know that feeling is hard to capture, because that is why The Godfather and There Will Be Blood never come out every year. It's because they are such specific masterpieces. And when everybody online is saying this is a once-in-a-generation movie, you have to go see this, this is truly one of the best ever made, yes, there is a certain expectation to live up to. And I get very excited to see what is potentially one of the best movies ever made. And I'm very happy for the people that genuinely feel that way. I am stoked for the people that think this is one of the best movies of the year. I do think there's a lot of people that truly do love this movie. But I think if somebody in my personal life came up to me and said, "Yo, Chase, There Will Be Blood and The Godfather, two of my favorite movies, what is a movie you would recommend?" The Brutalist wouldn't even be on the top 50 recommendations, I feel like. Because The Brutalist is not something that's nearly as accessible as There Will Be Blood or The Godfather. And I don't even think it's trying to be that. I think what Brady Corbet is going for is being completely misinterpreted by just critics that love to put quotes out there that could make a movie poster or a trailer, because there's a reason The Godfather is regarded by a lot of general public people, like people that aren't into movies like us, people that aren't interested in watching YouTube videos about movies but still enjoy a good movie every once in a while. There is a reason a lot of those people say The Godfather is the best movie ever made. It's not only because the craft is top notch, it's because it is something that anybody could hop into, and it's a genuinely exciting movie the entire time. The Brutalist is a much quieter, much subtler movie than those two. There aren't people getting shot in restaurants, and there's no "I abandoned my child" monologue in this movie. The Brutalist doesn't have anything like that. It really takes its time trying to tell you the story of this Holocaust survivor that's trying to restart their life in America, and they're trying to deal with the ups and downs of chasing the American dream. And to me, it just feels like a pretty good story that's told with the top of the line craftsman when it comes to independent filmmaking. And to me, when we're talking about The Brutalist, those aspects of the movie 100% live up to the hype. Because when I was watching this movie, I was absolutely blown away with the entire look of it. It was shot on 35mm, it was blown up to 70mm, which I got to see it projected on, and it looked absolutely beautiful. And when you are watching it, it is impossible to deny that this is the best looking movie of the entire year, especially when you take into account that the budget is like under $10 million. Because sure, there are movies I love this year like Dune Part 2, which look incredible, they have huge budgets behind them, but for what this team accomplished with the little amount of money they had, every movie should look and feel like this. It's ridiculous. Because I'll be honest, when they revealed that it cost around $10 million to make this movie, I was about to call the IRS and have them audit every other studio working today. Because when movies like Red One are being made for $250 million, we have a serious issue that we have to address. It's absolutely ludicrous, and the actual look of the cinematography is not the only thing that makes this movie beautiful to look at. It's the lighting, the costume design, the composition of the shots. Everything technical is beautiful to look at. And since Adrien Brody plays an architect, it shouldn't be any shocker that the production design also looks incredible here. If I were the sole voter of the Academy this year, I would still personally give Dune Part 2 a lot of the technical awards, but if The Brutalist starts sweeping in a lot of those categories with the minuscule budget that they had, I can't be mad at that. I completely understand why that would be praised, because it absolutely deserves it. And again, with Dune Part 2, it has still my favorite score of the year, but the Brutalist theme goes so fucking hard. You hear it and instantly you feel like you've heard it 1,000 times before, which is why I get why some people are comparing this to so many classic movies, because it does such a good job at mimicking the classic film feel. All of those things combined really makes the scale of the movie feel a lot bigger than it actually is. And I think a lot of that credit has to go to Brady Corbet. And even though I still like Vox Lux a lot more than I do The Brutalist, these two movies back to back really has me curious about what the hell this guy can do next, because even though I don't love this as much as everybody else yet, I do think this makes him one of the most interesting up-and-coming directors to keep our eye on. You also can't talk about this movie without talking about the performances, specifically the two that everybody is talking about, starting with Adrien Brody. I mentioned earlier in the recap that I didn't have a huge preference between Brody and Fiennes for Conclave, but if we're being honest, I would still probably give it to Brody over Ralph Fiennes. I love that guy. He's great in Conclave, but Adrien Brody's really fucking good here. I would probably give him Best Actor this year, but my whole thing is, I don't know how to put this in perspective other than saying that imagine he does win Best Actor. I wouldn't put him in the all-time greats of Best Actor winners. He'd probably be like mid-tier to like kind of lower mid-tier. Like if there's 90 plus people that have won this award, he'd probably be in the 40s, even though I haven't seen every Best Actor performance. I also think Guy Pearce is absolutely excellent in this. He's always been one of those actors that I think deserve to be bigger than he already is. But man, every ounce of talent in that man's body shows up here. I've seen a few people say that his performance is a bit overdone, but I completely disagree. I thought he kind of nailed exactly what the film was calling for him to do, and he was probably my favorite performance in this movie. In terms of actors that didn't live up to the hype for me personally, I did not think Joe Alwyn was all that great. He plays Guy Pearce's son, I believe, and he just came across so cringy for me. Like, I don't know, there's something about when you play the snobby rich kid and you talk like this, but you talk like a dick. I don't know, like, I feel like that's an easy role to nail, but he just was so kind of goofy with it. Like the performance itself, he's not really doing goofy things, but him trying to do it comes across as goofy for me. Maybe my mind will change on that on a rewatch. I thought he was kind of cringy and nowhere near the level of the other two. Along with Felicity Jones, who I have nothing really against Felicity Jones, but she comes in the second half of the movie and she's just not on the same level as the main two. Like, you watch the first half, and Adrien Brody and Guy Pearce are so fucking good. And then Felicity Jones shows up, starts talking, you're like, okay, that's a bit of a step down, but okay. You know, she's fine. And maybe like Joe Alwyn, you know, my mind will change on a rewatch, and I'll really think all the performances are on the same level. I just think when you have somebody performing on that wave, you need somebody that could kind of match that energy. And I think Guy Pearce and Adrien Brody match each other, but the other two just, they feel like they're in a different movie. I just know the caliber that Brody and Pearce brings, those two did not for me. I think you could have found two actors that fit that better. And honestly, I don't think it's Felicity Jones that did it, but once she shows up in the movie, that's when I started to lose a little bit of interest in the entire thing, because the first half of this movie, flies by. Like, I couldn't believe the intermission happened when it did, because I thought we still had another hour before the intermission was going to happen. And you really have this sense of momentum going into the second half of like, wow, we are on this epic ride of this guy's life. I can't wait to see what goes right, what goes wrong. You have the feeling that something is being promised that is going to happen. And instead of that momentum continuing to build in the first half into the second, it kind of like plateaus for a bit and then it like goes down a bit. Like, I don't think the second half of The Brutalist is bad. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think the first half is so good at feeling like it's going to deliver something, and then the second half kind of just keeps doing that, but not in a satisfying way anymore. And by the end, I was not satisfied with how this movie wrapped up, because you think this buildup is going to be worth it, and then the ending hits you, and I know some people like it. I thought the ending was kind of a joke, and even the scene right before the ending, I was like, okay, like, that's it? That's what we've been building to this entire time? But the absolute last scene, without getting into any spoilers, I thought was a huge letdown. And I really thought it was made by a different filmmaker at one point. I just couldn't believe this was the same guy that gave us everything prior in this specific movie. Like, I am definitely excited to give The Brutalist a rewatch. I'm excited to see what little things I didn't pick up on, whether it be early in the movie or the second half of the movie. I'm excited to see if Joe Alwyn and Felicity Jones change my mind. But I am fairly confident I am not going to do a 180 on the ending. I just don't find it satisfying whatsoever. And I think that's kind of the point of what they're trying to say in the ending, but that doesn't make me like your ending. So again, I do want to emphasize, I think The Brutalist lives up to the words like masterpiece and best of the decade if we're talking about all of the technical aspects of it. It's almost like finding somebody attractive on the outside is definitely important, but what's on the inside is what's most important. And The Brutalist is the hottest movie of the year, but the personality is so whatever. And I know there are people out there that feel that way. Their online scores just don't reflect that. It feels like they are obligated to say that they think the movie is great because that's what everybody expects them to say. And again, if you love The Brutalist, it genuinely touched your soul, I am very happy for you. I read some of my friends' reviews and I'm like, oh yeah, they fucking loved it. And that is awesome. I'm not trying to be right here. I'm just trying to give you my honest takes. That's my whole point of making a YouTube channel ever since I started this back in freshman year of high school. I just want to talk about movies. I love talking about movies. I think The Brutalist is an objectively good movie with a lot of great things in it. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people genuinely think this is the best movie of the year. I know this and Anora are the two frontrunners for Best Picture, even though I like Anora a lot more. I think The Brutalist is kind of a more deserving Best Picture winner because it signifies this shift that is happening in independent cinema. I think we're at a point right now where we're going to stop paying actors $30 million, upping the budget of a movie, underpaying everyone else working on the project, and then we can't make movies anymore because everyone is using this as a money laundering service. I think we're going to see a shift where people take a bit of a pay cut to actually make something meaningful, and then you can keep making a bunch of meaningful things rather than getting two huge paychecks and then you kill the industry for good. And just knowing that this was made for about $10 million, it really helps me hold out faith. You know, there's a lot of people that want to make movies. I want to make movies. That's the whole point of me talking about movies. It's something I want to get involved in the future. And I know how much work it takes. I know how much sacrifice you have to put into it. I know how hard it is to get a movie made. So to see that something like this can possibly be made for $10 million is such an optimistic thing for me. But with all of that being said, I can praise all of those aspects of this movie. But if I still walked out of there and said, yeah, you know what, that was pretty good, that's what I'm going to tell you in this video. I'm not going to pretend like I loved it. That's not me. That will never be me. And if you have a problem with me saying that about The Brutalist, maybe you didn't love the movie as much as you thought you did. And I'm hoping to see it in theaters again one more time. And I genuinely believe that there is a chance I could walk out of that second screening and be like, damn, that really does live up to all the hype. If this feels like a shorter review than usual, it's because this is a segment of a much larger video that I've put on the channel already, kind of reviewing my entire experience of the Toronto International Film Festival this year. I saw about 37 movies, which is absolutely crazy, and I talk about all of them in that video. Some of these are the biggest Oscar players of the year. Some of them are the best horror movies of the year. Whatever it is, we talk about a lot of movies in that video. So a link to that full video will be in the description here, but if you just want to see the shorter reviews that keep coming out over the next week or two, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of those reviews that drop. This is also all of my social media right here, so if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is, I check the Letterboxd the most. I haven't been as active on this because I've been working on this video and so many other projects over the past month, but I love talking about movies on there, so if you want to keep up with what I'm watching, be sure to watch that. Also, shout out to Reed for being so patient with me and helping edit all these videos and getting all these exports out. So if you need help with any editing at all, be sure to hit him up. He will absolutely help your videos out a ton. Be sure to like these videos, whether it's this video, the Long Toronto video, they all help me out a ton. It helps more than you think. I know a lot of people ask for you to hit the like button, but it helps me pay Reed to help me keep editing these videos. So if you won't like it for me, like it for Reed. And be sure to comment down below. Have you seen this movie yet? If the film has come out, what did you think of it? If it hasn't come out yet, are you excited for it still? Did my opinion change? I mean, this outro is going on the end of all my videos. So with this specific movie, I don't know if I loved it or if I hated it, but you know what? At the end of the day, a day talking about movies is a good day. So I'd love to talk to you in the comment section down below. And that is it for me. So this is Chase. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I hope you have an awesome day. Thanks.